Every great TV show has a beginning.
But it's the finale that can leave its mark on television history.
Hi, I'm Anna.
And I'm Jeff, and you're listening to We Judge a Show by Its Pilot, a podcast where we watch and discuss the pilots for shows while sharing personal stories that parallel the storyline.
But this month, we're doing things a little different. For the month of December, we're judging the series finales of some of our favorite shows that we've done on the pod.
And since we're covering series finales, we'll be delving much more into the series as a whole, so we must warn you, there are spoilers ahead. Hello, everyone. Welcome back to our pod.
Hello.
Welcome back. Welcome back. We went on our little vacay, went to Texas to see little Ollie.
Hi, Ollie. I miss you.
Cutest baby ever.
My God. He's so cute.
And I'm not a big, like, oh my God, look at the baby. Like, I'm not one of those people. I don't think you really are either. But, like,
no.
I mean, babies are cute objectively. Yeah. But, like, this is one hell of a cute baby.
He has so much hair, and he wasn't even 2 months old when we met him. I mean, he's
a mop top.
Already the little boy emoji with hair. He's not the baby emoji that has like the one little swirl.
It has a part and everything.
Yes, he's so freaking cute. I love him.
And then we spent some time with your family, which is always nice. We don't get to see them very often because they live a little, not far away, but they live a few hours away, and we don't get to see them as often. And got to catch up with everyone, and then we jumped on a boat, spent 4 nights on a ship, went to Cozumel, went to Paradise Beach, had a great time.
Had some coconut shrimp and nachos.
Oh, had those mahi tacos, which are so good.
And some Miami Vices.
Oh, yeah. Which was a random drink that a bartender made for us once at Bollero's on another ship.
Yeah.
And he was just like, because I couldn't figure out what I wanted. I think I asked him, I was like, I kind of want a pina colada, but I kind of want, I think it was a strawberry daiquiri. And he was like, well.
You can do this. And it's
called a Miami Vice. And so I'm like, hell yeah. So that's what I ordered for like the rest of that trip. And then he our server was like, you have a pina colada, a margarita, a Miami Vice. I completely forgotten about Miami Vice. So I'm like, one of those, please.
And I actually looked, and it wasn't on the menu. Yeah. I think it's something that they just do, like with a lot of drinks, they ship them. So
it's probably it's also one of those, right? It's probably a very easy thing to make.
It tastes good because you're talking like strawberry pineapple.
It's a strawberry pina colada, and it's delicious. All right, so we took a week off. We have another episode ready to go. This episode's going to come out today. If you're listening to it on Friday, December 12th.
Yes.
It's coming out today. As soon as we're done, I'm going to edit and I'm going to upload it. Then we have another episode. I'm going to be releasing it tomorrow. I have to edit it tomorrow because we talked for nearly an hour and a half on that episode.
Was that girls?
That was girls. And so that is going we went on some rants apparently every single time. It never fails. Every time I'm like, and I know we say this a million times, but like every time I'm like, I don't know if we're going to have a full hour out of this. And then I look down, it's like an hour and 23 minutes.
And what's crazy is these are series finales, which I'm always like, oh, it's ending. We're not going to have that much to say. But then we end up having a ton to say.
The plot,
not just about the finale.
Plot summary for girls was a page long.
Yeah.
And we somehow made an hour and a half out of it. So I'm going to be doing a lot of editing when I come home from work tomorrow. But yeah, we're getting back on track, and we are beginning series finale month just a week late. And today we are doing a show that I feel like the series finale, I don't want to say is like famous, but I mean like it's a pretty, the meme of Will in the empty house was like a meme for a little while.
It was like iconic.
Yeah.
I don't want to say famous, but it's iconic.
For its era, today we are doing the series finale for Fresh Prince of Bel-Air. We did the pilot back in January, almost a year ago, if you can believe it.
Wow.
We probably recorded it a year ago.
Yeah, because it was part of Fresh Beginnings, and now it's part of our series finales.
And so we watched this, and I hadn't watched this series finale probably since back in the rerun syndication days when I was in high school, when I used to watch Fresh Prince every day. And I'm not gonna lie, I got a little emotional. I mean, I wasn't like bawling or anything, but it was just kind of like, I remember this being an emotional series finale for me because this was one of my favorite shows growing up. And I thought Will Smith was just the coolest guy. I thought Alfonso Ribeiro was like the funniest person on planet Earth. I wanted to have an uncle like Uncle Phil. my sister isn't like Hillary, but I kind of wish like, oh, I also have an older sister, you know, and it's just kind of like it was just very much like
She could be a little like Hillary.
yeah, I mean,
We love you, Sarah.
and you know what? That's a compliment because Hillary is like low key was like my favorite character.
She knew what she wanted.
Yeah.
I mean, and she wasn't going to apologize
Right.
for it. So, I mean, there are people that would say, and I'm not saying this about Sarah, that, you know, she was spoiled and she was shallow or whatever those things. No, I think she was just a woman who knew what she wanted. She wasn't going to not want those things, and she wasn't going to apologize
And
for
what
them.
I loved about that character was that they really kind of developed her into having a career and having like a very successful career as a talk show host. We'll get into all that in the episode, but yeah, I mean, like, all the characters just had it's funny because like we watched the pilot and then we didn't watch any more episodes, and then we watched the series finale, and kind of watching those two were so different with how the characters were. I mean, that's how it should be. The characters should be developed after, you know, 100 and something episodes, but and after what,
you don't want
6
them
seasons?
to be just the same that they were when
Right.
the pilot first aired.
Yeah, so we have a lot to talk about. We're going to be going down memory lane. We're going to be talking about some of our own stuff as we always do. But before we do that, Anna's going to do what she always does and give us some episode and series information.
All right, Fresh Prince of Bel-Air, I done. The Fresh Prince of Bel-Air was an American sitcom that aired on NBC from 1990 to 1996 for 6 seasons and 148 episodes. The 2-part series finale originally aired on May 20th, 1996 and had nearly 20 million views.
And you know what? That was like nothing back then, which is crazy.
The series finale was written by Jeff Pollack, who originally developed the show, and was directed by Shelley Jensen, who directed 87 episodes. Quick reminder, The Fresh Prince of Bel-Air centers around West Philadelphia native Will Smith, who was sent to live with his wealthy aunt and uncle in Bel-Air after getting into a fight. Was it like on the playground or something, or like basketball
and his
court?
mom got scared. She said, "You're moving with your auntie and uncle in Bel-Air."
The cast for the series finale includes Will Smith as a fictionalized version of himself. He's mostly remembered for his witty and often sarcastic sense of humor, but often is shown to be intelligent, sensitive, and artistic. The late and great James Avery plays Philip Banks, Will's uncle. At the beginning of the series, Uncle Phil is an attorney, but later becomes a superior court judge. Frequently, he butts heads with Will, but as the series progressed, Phil became Will's father figure and looked at him like his own son. Alfonso Ribeiro, who plays Carlton Banks, Will's cousin and Phil's only son.
Sorry, Phil's oldest son. I forgot about Nikki.
Oh, later on.
Habit.
Carlton is the exact opposite of Will, conservative, a bit of an elitist, and loves to take advantage of his privileged lifestyle, but is also rational, responsible, and empathetic. Throughout the first half of the series, Will and Carlton were often rivals and struggled to get along, but by the end, the two became best friends and were roommates. Daphne Maxwell Reid played Vivian Banks, Phil's wife. Reid replaced Janet Huber-Witten for the last 3 seasons after Hubert and Smith frequently fought, and allegedly Smith had Hubert fired. Again, don't know.
He pretty much admitted that
it
was. I just said allegedly just to be nice.
Okay. And then, but they have since reconciled during a very special pandemic reunion in 2020.
It was so good. If you have HBO Max, go watch the Fresh Prince reunion. It is so good.
Karen Parsons played Hillary Banks, the eldest Banks child. At the beginning of the series, Hillary is shallow, self-centered, and materialistic. She has little to no ambition and assumes she'll marry a rich man who will take care of her. Throughout the series, Hillary is humbled and eventually lands a job as a talk show host. Yeah, because she was like, wasn't she like the weather girl at a TV station first?
Because
that's where she met her dude that fell down the elevator shaft. That was horrible, but funny.
But he proposed while bungee jumping.
Yeah, that.
Yeah.
But did he die during that?
Yeah.
That was it. Okay,
Yeah.
I don't know why I thought an elevator. I might be thinking of
It was
Friends.
it was the funniest scene ever.
Correct. Right. That's why I was like, it was sad but hilarious.
Yeah. The audience reaction is the best because it was genuine.
Tatiana M. Ali plays Ashley Banks. The second youngest Banks child. At the beginning of the series, Ashley is a typical preteen. She's only interested in boys and fitting in at school. She and Will have a close bond. She looks at him as the brother she always wanted. Later in the series, as she becomes a teenager, Ashley begins rebelling and is often getting in trouble with her parents. She becomes an aspiring singer, and despite her parents wanting her to have a more reliable career. Joseph Marcel plays Jeffrey, the Banks' butler. Jeffrey has a posh British accent and is well known for his cynical, dry sense of humor, but always serves as a sounding board for Will and the Banks family. And finally, Ross Bagley plays Nikki Banks, the newest addition to the family when Vivian had a surprise pregnancy in season 3. Nikki was retconned from a baby to a 5-year-old at the start of season 5. Like most sitcom kids, Nikki is precocious and full of personality. And if you remember the 1994 Little Rascal films, Ross was Buckwheat. The cast would go on to have their own form of success. Smith became one of the biggest, most highest paid actors ever. James Avery and Daphne Reed, they were already established and they would continue their careers. Avery passed away in 2013, but he lives on as one of everyone's favorite uncles. Karen Parsons had a few hit films such as Major Payne and The Ladies' Man, but she walked away to become a mother and an author. Alfonso struggled to always brush off his Carlton persona, but he remained in the industry, becoming a director for kid shows such as The Brothers Garcia and True Jackson. His career was revitalized when he competed and won season 19 of ABC's Dancing with the Stars, where he was partnered with fan favorite Whitney Carson. In 2022, that also led to him becoming the co-host of Dancing with the Stars, taking place of Tyra Banks, who had also been a recurring character on Fresh Prince. It is originally, and he is now currently co-hosting with former pro Julianne Hough. Joseph Marcel continues to work this day, appearing on The Bold and the Beautiful, and most recently, the original film, The Thursday Murder Club. Tatiana Ali also consistently is working. She is currently she was a series regular on The Young and the Restless, and most recently had a recurring role on our fave, Abbott Elementary.
Oh, yeah.
Despite being a huge part of pop culture, the show's infamous theme song and the Carlton dance, ratings for the series dropped during the last 2 seasons, went from being a top 20 to not even making the top 50. Due to Will Smith's rising stardom and declining ratings, NBC ultimately decided to cancel the series.
Nice.
Yep.
Not nice that it got canceled, but
well,
good
I mean,
read.
It's like, how long can you be funny living in your uncle's house? I mean, it could go on forever.
I mean, they were like 20, I think the characters were like 21 at this point, and it was like, all right, time. It very much like the storyline for this episode, for the series finale. It was time for everyone to move on.
Yeah.
The show served its purpose. It has gone down as one of the most beloved 90s sitcoms of all time. It is iconic. The people who've never even seen the show know the theme song.
Oh.
People who've never even seen the show know the Carlton dance. So I mean, like it's just one of those. And then there's the famous scene with Will's biological dad comes into town, and the famous scene between Will Smith and James Avery about Will Smith being like, "Why didn't he want me?" and all that stuff. And that clip kind of has become viral. And anytime Carlton's doing his dance, that has become viral. So I mean, it's.
I mean, it was even in Dancing with the Stars.
And even in this most recent series, in the most recent season. So Julianne and Alfonso, they are the co-hosts currently of Dancing with the Stars, and they split the cast into 2 groups, and then they were the captains of each group. And they got to dance with the stars and the pros, that was like one of my favorite episodes.
Yeah.
And Alfonso's team, they did the Carlton dance for a second. Yeah.
Yes, that was great.
Him teaching Dylan Efron how to do it was like one of my favorite little bits, because he's just like, because it's this iconic.
Dylan Efron is also like really tall, so
Yeah.
it looked really cute,
Yeah.
but funny, him doing it. I mean, it's a funny little
Yeah,
dance.
and they won that dance off, and I knew they would. But yeah, so yeah, watching this episode, it kind of brought back a lot of memories. I moved out of my childhood home very young. I think I was like 9 or 10. We moved out of Central and moved into our new house, and then I moved, not a lot, but I moved from house to house. Like, my childhood homes like don't really exist anymore. And even my dad and my stepmom's house, they've remodeled it so much, it doesn't even look like our old house anymore. So I mean, like, it doesn't feel like the house that I grew up in. And we moved in there when I was like 13, so it was like a little different. But
you were also splitting it between the Azalea Lakes
Right.
house, so you sort of had two.
And then my mom sold that house when I was like 21 or 22. So I don't really have like a childhood home anymore.
I would think Warwick probably felt like, well, the most consistent home because that's where Penny and your grandpa lived.
Right.
So, but again, that was not your home.
Right. And then when that house flooded, they moved out. I never really got to go back. And so, like, you know, it's I didn't really have that experience. But you, however, you had the same house. I mean, obviously you didn't live there your whole life, but you lived in the same house for, I mean, it was always there from the time you were born until until 5 years ago?
Yeah, until my mom passed away in 2020, and then we sold it in June of 2021. So that they moved into that house about a month after my sister was born. So I will technically say I was the only Gara that lived there her whole life. Rebecca cannot say that because she lived uptown for a month before they moved into that house.
Okay. So what was it? So I can't relate to this. When the Banks family is moving out of the house, I'm assuming it's the only house they've ever lived in, or at least the kids have. I don't know. I don't know if they ever went over that lore on the show before.
I would imagine not, because he didn't probably start off as like a super rich attorney, but you know, he probably gathered that wealth in Beverly Hills and, you know, spruce things up.
As one does.
So
I can't really relate, but when we talk about like our childhood homes, I can't really relate to staying in the same house my whole life. So what was it like kind of packing up and leaving your childhood home, and kind of like that moment where Will is standing in the living room and the house is empty and it just looks so different and it looks so, you know, just looks so bare and probably strange. What was it like for you having to pack up and leave your childhood home, leave it behind?
Well, it was obviously rough because it was a different situation because my mom had died. But I think me and the siblings were really at a point by 2020 when my mom died. I hate saying we knew the end was near because she passed away from a stroke and then never really recovered. But we were always trying to get rid of stuff. I'm not going to say my mom was a hoarder. My mom, she just had like 60 years of stuff in that house.
Right.
And so we were always like, if, you know, I visited for a weekend, I would like walk around the living room and look for like an old book or this like old bottle of whatever looks like it's 20 years old that's in the bar. You know, like I would always be throwing like a few things away. So by the time my mom actually passed away, between me, my sister, and my brother, we had taken out the majority of things we wanted from the house. Like I hadn't taken my armoire because I didn't have anywhere to put it. But one of the main things I always wanted was my mom and dad's, like, their cedar chest that was in front of their bed. That was like, I was like, besides my childhood armoire, I wanted that chest and then eventually the door. But so there was truly nothing in the house that I was like sentimentally attached to. But when it came time to sell my mom's house, we were like, whoa, we have like a big task ahead of us because it was still full of furniture, dishes, all of that kind of stuff, appliances, things we had to sell or just get rid of, find a place to donate, throw in a worldwide pandemic, and that exponentially made it extremely difficult.
Right.
Because we couldn't have garage sales. We couldn't find businesses that were open, willing to come because they were closed down.
Yeah.
So it took literally a year to clean out that house because we had nowhere to bring or put or donate anything. We could throw stuff away because like the trash was still coming. So I literally every week, once a week, would go and fill up the trash can.
Yeah.
Be it with old utensils, old fabric, stuff from the bathrooms, toiletries. And really, between me and my sister initially, we had cleared out almost everything except stuff from the garage and her sewing room.
Oh, wow.
And you know, I think like a lot of her clothes might have still been in her closet, but we had really wiped stuff out. And then when it came time to start doing garage sales, when the world started opening up a little bit, I think we had like 3 big garage sales. Like you came, your mom even came, Alicia came,
Yep.
My sister, and then even my brother came one time. And we were able to offload quite a bit of stuff.
Yeah.
I mean, you know, some stuff just wasn't going to sell, but we were able to make a little bit of money because we were still paying the utilities and things on the house, but it wasn't as emotional because all 3 of us had been gone. We all had our own houses. For me, it was more emotional just because my mom had died.
Yeah.
And so it was that. It was also like emotional. Like I know this one will sound silly, but losing our phone number was also a real struggle. I think we kept it on until like maybe the week or 2 before we sold the house. Like I think we still kept it live, but so we were still paying bills and stuff because you have to while you're trying to sell a house. But I feel like those things were more emotional than that. But then the people that bought it were in construction, and so they came in and like totally remodeled it. You saw it. You've seen it a couple of times, I think. I have been back maybe twice. I don't think I've been back in the past year or 2. I've maybe driven by it. Rebecca has been inside maybe in the past year. I don't think she's going to go as much anymore. I mean, it's just not safe in New Orleans, really that great. But what was great about that and being able to see that was to see that it was someone else's home now.
Yeah.
Because that's where my mind is at. I'm like, that's not our house anymore. Because like you said, like your dad and Shelly's house, it's been remodeled. So it's not the house you associate growing up in. I mean, it is the house, but it's different. And that's the way I see that house now. It's like, that's where I lived, but that's not my house anymore.
Yeah.
And I'm good with that. Because like Rebecca does ask, she's like, oh, did you go by the house? And I'm like, no, I didn't. I mean, a lot of our neighbors don't really even live there, maybe 1 or 2, but the whole street, like the neighbors across the street have since passed away. 2 on the, you know, same side of my mom's house have moved away.
Yeah.
And then we have 1 next door to my mom, and the other side are the ones that are still there. But, you know, it's the house where I grew up doesn't exist anymore.
Right.
But it was mostly more emotional for me because of what had happened. So of why we were moving out.
All of the reasons why that leading up
because
to it.
I will admit, and I think I've told you this, that I had strongly always considered buying the house and buying my brother and sister out of it and trying to remodel it and maybe even ever moving there.
Yeah.
Just because I loved it. It was a huge piece of property, but
we even talked about it at some point.
And I just, the cost of living in New Orleans is so astronomical, and the crime and all the politics, and it's just not a place that I think I would want to technically live in anymore. I'm very happy here. I love our house here. New Orleans is the place that we have close enough that we can visit when we want, and I think we're both good with that.
And we do.
Yeah, and we do. So it was emotional, but in a different way.
Right.
You know, so it was good, and I am in a good place, you know, almost 5 years since we sold it in 2021. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, I remember the whole process of emptying out, I guess, is a term I would use. It sounds like a cold term to use, but like emptying out your house and kind of, my memories of that are being in your garage, which your garage went through the whole length of your house.
Yeah.
Which I loved your house.
We could literally park 3 sedans.
Yeah.
Back to back to back.
Right.
In the length of our house, because my mom and I actually put both of our cars in the house in the garage.
Yeah.
During a couple of hurricanes.
And I remember you kind of tasking me with like, okay, take care of like this section of the garage and like, you know, donate or throw away or whatever. And like everything felt like an antique. And so I kept being like, what about this? I just remember like everything I found, but like, do you want me to throw this away? Because I didn't want to throw away anything that like, oh my God, I haven't seen this in 20 years. You know, I didn't want to throw that away. I just remember sitting here being like, this is so much stuff. And I just remember thinking like, how are we going to get rid of all of the stuff, donate, sell, or whatever? And y'all handled it. And I helped a little bit, but like, you know, you really took over the reins and you really kind of handled it. And
probably one of the biggest tasks that we had, that I don't know if you remember, was my mom. Like, one of my dad's things with my mom was always like, go buy yourself some fabric, because my mom loved to sew, to quilt.
Room. Yes, I forgot.
Once she had a ton of stuff in the sewing room, but also tubs of fabric in the garage.
Yeah,
I think my sister counted. I'm gonna get it wrong. I can go look on Facebook later, but it was like 30 of those big storage tubs of fabric. And they were all in pristine condition because they were covered and stored inside. So they were very nice. And again, during the pandemic, it was hard to find anyone that would be willing to come and pick stuff up. But she found this group, I think in like Bay St. Louis or Biloxi or Gulf Ocean Springs, that did rehabilitation for people and made quilts and made blankets.
Cool. Yeah.
And so they came, I think, in like 2 vans and got stuff on a day we were hosting one of the garage sales. So that was one of the things, was like, we did, you know, we definitely were like, yeah, this is trash, that like no one can use this. Versus, I mean, this fabric was nice fabric. I mean, and like we had like, I remember I found this like bin of zippers. I mean, hundreds and hundreds of zippers. And I was like, these are all good. Like, someone could really use these. And I have a friend, an old college friend, who does sewing and quilting, and she was like, I'll take them. I was just like, you know, just send me money for shipping. And, you know, she probably sent me $20 and I shipped them to her, and here's hoping she used them for something. But it was stuff like that we just didn't want to go to waste. But I'm also very much like, this is trash. Like, we don't need this. I've been doing that in our house since 2021. Like, why do I still have this? Like, this is crap. And like, we haven't looked at this in, 10 years. But, what's cool about that you specifically mentioned the garage and the length. One of the things that the new owners did was completely transformed that garage into like a mother-in-law apartment.
Yeah, it's really
cool. With like a kitchen, dining, living room, and bedroom. That's how big our garage was. And
it's a 1-bedroom apartment.
And they still had room in the front to park a car.
Yep.
I mean, they couldn't park 2 because it's a singular width.
Right.
And then now it's a singular length. But that's how big the apartment is that it had a kitchen, a living, a little mini dinette area,
it's really
bathroom,
cool.
and bedroom.
Yeah.
And so that was what I wanted. I wanted someone to take like the footprints of our home and be like, how can we change this and make it into something newer and fresher?
I think they've tore down a wall or two and like completely opened up the living room and the kitchen.
Yes, the whole left side of our house that were 4 bedrooms and 2 bathrooms. Well, of course they updated it with new like sheetrock and stuff or whatever they did. But the whole right side of our house was that it was a living room, dining, kitchen, den on the whole right side of the house. They knocked down the walls, and now it's like one monster room that when you walk in the door, you can see all the way to the back of the house. And I remember walking in going, this is amazing.
Yeah, it's incredible.
I was just like, whoa. I was just like, it was just so open. They built in a fireplace. We used to have a fireplace. We had taken it out, but they added like a faux, like, I don't know, electric one or whatever. Yeah. They made like bars and countertops and I mean, just like little coat nook. And I mean, I just walked in and was like, this is what this house needed. Yeah. It had the bones. It had the
it was a really cool house.
Yeah. And so, I mean, it was built in the late 50s, early 60s. I think my parents were only the ever second owners of it. Yeah. It's in a very blue collar neighborhood part of Algiers, but they just totally transformed that house. The only major regret I have is that they tore down those damn lemon trees.
Oh, I know.
I will admit it was one of the reasons I told myself that I could not visit. It was so hard for me when I heard that they had tore down those lemon trees. I was like, they did what? I mean, those lemons were amazing. But anyway, I digress. All right, what else?
So a big part of this series finale is Will feeling left behind while everyone is kind of moving on with their lives. And that's basically, I mean, that's essentially like the entire series finale. And so my question is, have you ever felt that way?
I will say one of the major times that I sort of felt that way, not like being left behind by my family or anything like that, was in my high school experience where I went to one of the top schools in actually the country and in this, it's the number one school in New Orleans, the number one school in the state, and in like the top like 25 schools in the country. I'm not bragging because I still don't know how I got into this school. But so because my high school was very college prep, very academic focused, there was a lot of pressure to go to a big name college. Yeah. I mean, if you weren't going to Harvard, Georgetown, Yale, I mean, whatever the, you know, the big colleges, top Vanderbilt, whatever it was, you just were, I don't want to say looked down upon, but you were looked down upon. Yeah. And my parents did not have a lot of money. My dad was a cook on cargo ships. So he probably during my lifetime made around, you know, $30,000 a year in, you know, if that even. But a lot of my friends, while they didn't go to like Ivy Leagues or super big colleges, they did go to bigger colleges like LSU, Ole Miss, Auburn, you know, the University of North Carolina, Texas A&M, USC. And so me going to the, at the time, Northeast Louisiana University, which was a regional state university. So kind of like a Southeastern or a Nichols or something like that. I felt like people thought, oh, that's all you could get into. That's, you know, and for me, it wasn't that was all I could get into. It was all my parents could afford. Yeah. Because I really wanted back then to go to Ole Miss. Right. It was just my dream college. It was beautiful. I went and visited, but my parents just could not afford out of state.
LSU heads come after her in the comments.
Yes. The whole Lane Kiffin Ole Miss to LSU is happening right now. But anyway, and so that was sort of my heartbreak. But then, you know, when people would be like, well, where are you going to college? I'd be like, Northeast Louisiana University. And my sister had gone there, so that's how I knew about it. Yeah. And my choices were really only state colleges. My mom was like, you're not going to LSU. It's too big for you. You don't need to be a little fish in a big pond. I'd rather you be a big fish in a small pond. And so I didn't want to go to Nichols, UNO, or Southeastern because those were all too big. I didn't know anything about McNeese in Lake Charles, so I didn't want to go there.
I was forgetting about McNeese, yeah.
Northwestern, I had visited in 8th grade, and I just thought Natchitoches was like too out of the way. There was nothing in Shreveport, just private schools. Yeah. And then The other options were schools like Louisiana College, which was Baptist. I didn't want to go there. And I didn't want to go to Lafayette because my godparents live there. And I was always like, my mom could just come and visit my godmother and drop in on me. And I don't want that. So Monroe became the option because it was about a 4-hour drive. It was affordable and I got a scholarship.
Yeah.
And I will look back and go, my mom was right. I mean, I was so involved in college. I was in my sorority. I was in student government, on the campus paper and yearbook. I was a university hostess. And if I had gone to LSU, I don't know if I would have had all those opportunities.
Yeah.
And I feel like I loved my college experience.
Mm-hmm.
But at the time, at 18, at graduation, and hearing about where all my friends were going and what they were doing, and they were going off to these amazing colleges and prestigious colleges, I did feel left behind.
Yeah.
Or I felt small. And so that, and I tell people that now, I'm like, don't go broke on undergrad.
Yeah.
Go broke if you want to go to medical school or dental school or law school. Go to a prestigious college then.
Yeah.
You're going to get the same basic information.
Right.
Education from a smaller school. You'll get that degree that will get you into that higher program.
Right.
So I use that experience as what I tell my friends' kids today. So anywho, but that's my story. What about you?
So the whole college thing for me is I went to a really big high school. We had so many kids in our class. And also it was kind of during an era where I knew a lot of kids that weren't going to college. I knew a lot of kids that maybe were, joining their family's business, or they were already had a job. Kind of maybe they got a job their senior year and they're like, I'm just going to keep making money. So I never really felt left behind in that sense. But in a more abstract way, there was an era in my life, and I've talked about it before. So I was in a relationship with someone that we were in a relationship for a little over a year, and she struggled with her mental health, and she struggled with alcoholism, and she took her own life while we were together. And it was very much an era in my life where the world kept moving and mine didn't. Like, everyone else was like living their life, and like I wasn't. And everything in my life came to a screeching halt because we had made all these plans and we were going to, have this life together, and that all ended. That all stopped. And so I very much felt like I was stuck and I didn't know what I was supposed to do. Like, everyone is
like, right, like, what do you do next?
Everyone is like, I'm going on social media, and like all my friends are like, they're in relationships, they're married, they're having kids, and they're moving here, moving there, they're going on this vacation, going on that vacation, and I'm just kind of in my apartment at a standstill, and I didn't really know how to fix that. And there's nothing I really could have done to fix that. I kind of just, it's just time and, time and grieving and kind of moving on. But it took me a really, really long time to start living my life again.
Well, I think there's also the perception of that you're worried, or you might have been worried that you looked bad for wanting to move on.
You can't, when you lose your significant other in that way that I did, like, you can't be happy. Like, you can't even show signs of being happy because people were like, I thought you were grieving, or like, it's like, oh, I thought like you loved her, like, and it's just people get very judgmental even when they're not trying to be. And so the first thing I had to do was I had to go work somewhere else, because I was working at a restaurant when she died, and like every time I came into work, it was just like, hey, how are you? And I'm like, I'm okay. And they're like, are you sure? And I'm like,
oh, God.
Yes, I wasn't okay, but I was just like, what do you want?
How do you reply to that?
Do you really want me to be like, no, I couldn't sleep last night because I kept repeating I kept having a dream over and over again of finding her dead. Like, you really want to throw that on someone, even though that's the truth. it's like I have to say I'm okay, or I have to say, oh, I'm hanging in there. Like I had to say like the same 3 answers, or else people are gonna make me feel bad for making them feel uncomfortable. So then I'm like, well, then don't ask me, and
Right.
and I knew I had to go work somewhere else, and so I did. And then I ended up meeting someone that I had a crush. I was like, it was the first time I had like a crush on someone. And I think that was really when I started to like move forward with my life, was when I met someone that like I had feelings for. And I was just like, oh, like, and then I felt guilty because I had feelings for someone else. And then it was just like, am I allowed to feel this way? Like, am I allowed to, enter another relationship? And people are like, well, how long were you with Mary Jo for? I'm like, a little over a year. And they're like, well, then you should probably wait like a little over a year. Like there has to be like people will give me like a specific timeline. And I'm like, life doesn't work that way. I mean, like life is so confusing and so messy and so unpredictable. And we can't, in the way that I lost Mary Jo, I was so angry at her for so long that it felt like and this is going to sound insane, but this is how it felt. Like it felt like I got dumped in the worst possible way.
Right, like you had no say, obviously, in it.
And that's not ultimately not what it was. It was just she struggled with her mental health, and there was just a lot going on that I haven't talked about. I'm probably not going to talk about because it's ultimately not my business. But I mean, like, it's not my story to tell. But once I started having realized that I had feelings for someone else, I was like, okay, I think I could start moving forward with my life. Like, I think I can
Who was that?
You know who it was. And I've told you every relationship I've ever been in.
I know, I'm teasing you.
All my relationships. So that was kind of that was an era in my life where I really felt like everyone was moving. And it wasn't a specific event like, oh, all my friends are doing this, or all my family is doing that. It was just everyone just continued living their lives, and I couldn't because I wasn't allowed to. I mean, like, that's how it felt. It felt like I couldn't. It felt like if I did, people were going to judge me. I felt like if I posted a picture with another girl, whether we were friends or dating or not, I feel like that would get judged, and it did. And I would get messages from people being like, what are you doing? And I'm like, we're just friends, you know what I mean? And it was just like, and that's none of your business. So that was also when I really began my hatred for social media.
Oh, I bet. Yeah.
Because I'm just like, you don't know what's going on in my life. You want to judge. My big thing was like, you want to judge my every move. When was the last time you messaged me and asked how I was doing? Like, you want to judge me, but you don't want to know how I'm doing. Like, you you really actually don't care. Like, and it's like, you just want something to gossip about.
Correct.
So yeah, that's that. I mean, it wasn't, I like I said, college and stuff like that. I had a lot of friends who didn't go to college. I have a lot of friends who didn't go to college, and I didn't get judged for not going. So,
I mean, those were just our 2 examples.
Yeah.
And, I mean, you and I have obviously talked about Mary Jo and stuff, and I can definitely see that because it's like, is there a grieving timeline? Is there a restarting to date timeline after that? I mean, there isn't one when you break up,
right?
But
and it wasn't like, and I kind of always compare it. It wasn't like she had cancer and I was next to her bedside, or it wasn't like she died in a car accident. It was like she took her own life, and so it was just kind of like, how do you go about grieving that in a way that like you're not going to get judged for it? And it's impossible. I mean, like, people are just going to judge you no matter what.
Yeah.
Like I said, that's when I kind of began my slowly, and if any of y'all are friends with me on Facebook, y'all know that I never post on Facebook. So I mean, like, I never really post on any social media because I'm just like, it's really nobody's business. And it's like, do I really want to post this? Do I really care that much? Or do I just want to like keep this memory in my phone? And that's ultimately what I end up doing.
Yeah.
Of course I post stuff every now and then, but like, so yeah, that's pretty much it. I mean, I'm sure there have been plenty other times in my life where I felt left behind and everyone was kind of off doing their own thing. I know specifically when I first moved back from Florida and I'd gotten divorced. That was when all of I had got married and got divorced, and that was when all of my friends started to get married. And I kind of felt left behind in that way, but I mean, I'd already kind of gone through it, so
I think I've also talked about that was when I had moved to Seattle for 8 years and then moved back and thought, oh, it's going to be the same like when I was here during law school. But, you know, by then all my high school friends were married with kids or had moved on. And then obviously a lot of my law school friends had been building their own lives for 8 years, having kids, getting married, or moving away. And so when I moved back to New Orleans from having been in Washington for 8 years, I was like, oh, it's not the same. And and again, I've talked about my struggles in Seattle. I actually struggled a lot in those first couple of years when I moved back. Mm-hmm. I mean, I think Terry for a big part of that. Shout out to Terry and Jim and Bruce. You know, all my gay guys who brought me into their fold, and I would just hang out with them, go and do Mardi Gras, French Quarter, and you know, they gave me a social life. But you know, it's hard coming back from leaving as well, like not necessarily being left behind, but the coming back and everyone else is gone as well. So it's kind of another conundrum. So, all right. Well, enough chattering.
You ready to get into this plot summary?
Do it.
Okay. Sorry, I got an event reminder on my phone. All right. Okay, Fresh Prince plot summary. It's Phil's 50th birthday, and he comes home to a quiet house. Since he assumes he's home alone, Phil takes off his shoes, puts on some music, and starts dancing. As he enters the kitchen, he is surprised by his family. As the family sits around the living room, everyone discusses their plans. Hillary's talk show has been picked up by a major network, and she's moving to New York. Ashley has been accepted into a prestigious performing arts high school in New York and is going to be living with Hillary. Carlton is leaving. Okay, so it's the fictional school of University of Los Angeles. I think it's supposed to be a play on UCLA. Carlton is leaving ULA and transferring to Princeton, and Nikki is starting kindergarten. Jeffrey then announces he is moving back to England to spend more time with his son. So I think at some point you find out Jeffrey has a son. It was a plot point for one of the episodes. I'm glad they kept the continuity. Will is the only one without any concrete plans. Carlton makes a joke that not everyone can be in the fast lane and someone has to be stuck on the soft shoulder, which I didn't know that was the official term for the side of the road. Soft shoulder.
Soft shoulder.
I just thought it was called the shoulder. Everyone is sad to hear Jeffrey's announcement, but understand his reasons. Hillary says, this is my favorite, Hillary says they have to have a going away dinner for Jeffrey and then ask him what he's going to cook. That was like one of my favorite little jokes.
I loved it.
The next day, Will asks Phil how it feels being 50 and a day. Nikki makes a joke about Phil being the oldest man on the planet. A lot of old jokes, and even back then, not that long ago, 30 years ago, 50 felt so old, and now 50 isn't even close to being old now. It's just funny how time it's just so different now. Will's best friend, Jazz, who DJ Jazzy Jeff, shows up to wish Phil a happy birthday. As always, Phil isn't thrilled to see Jazz's presence, but is taken aback when Jazz gives him a birthday present. Another one of my favorite jokes. All hope is lost when the present turns out to be a used set of dentures. They're Jazz's grandmother's, and she doesn't need them anymore. For the last time of the series, Phil throws Jazz out the front door, one of my favorite bits of the entire series. In the pool house, Carlton is packing up for Princeton while Will sits on the couch and watches TV. Carlton continues to make jabs at Will for having to stay behind while Carlton is going to his dream school. A little later, Will goes to Jeffrey to ask for advice. Will says he has a friend that is feeling a bit left behind while everyone else around him seems to be moving on. My favorite joke of the episode, Jeffrey asks Will if his friend is feeling pensive. Will says his friend doesn't know what that means.
Yeah.
Jeffrey rewords and asks if his friend is feeling lost. Will says yes, but mostly his friend feels kind of embarrassed that he's the only one that has nothing going on. Jeffrey tells Will the same story his father once told him about the Earl of Monroe, who spent years building a bridge over the River Mersey. Will assumes the moral of the story is as long as you apply yourself and be patient, everything will work out. Jeffrey then says that once the bridge was finished, the Earl jumped off it and died. Will asks, "That's the advice your father gave you?" Jeffrey replies, "My father was not a well man." I thought you were about to say something.
Oh, no.
Sorry. All right, you're good. Later on, the family is together, and Carlton is taking more jabs at Will. Out of desperation, Will lies and says he found an apartment. Jeffrey assumes this is a lie and promises to keep it a secret. Will goes looking for an apartment but finds nothing. He returns home and tells Jeffrey that he'll come clean and tell Uncle Phil the truth. Will is just grateful that he still has the pool house. When Will goes to Phil, Phil announces that he, Vivian, and Nikki are moving back east to be closer to the kids. So now Will has nowhere to live but doesn't want to tell his family the truth. Back at the pool house, Carlton is packing up and asking Will about his apartment. Will exaggerates and says it's huge with a jacuzzi and it's this, penthouse type apartment. Carlton asks Will if he can store some of the boxes, and since it sounds like there's plenty of room, but that's when Will starts to backtrack. He's like, no, it's kind of small. He's like, I thought you said it was big. He was like, no, it's like small in a big way, like, kind of just backtracking. Carlton assumes Will is having separation anxiety. He thinks Will is going to miss him so much, he doesn't want reminders of him in his new apartment. Will finally confesses to Carlton that he doesn't have an apartment and that he lied because he was jealous that everyone was moving on except for him. Carlton, and this is when we're reminded that Carlton's a good guy. So, like, Carlton feels guilty for making all those jokes at Will's expense and apologizes. Carlton suggests that Will move back east with them, find a school in New York, or work for Hillary's new show. Carlton tells Will he doesn't have to take the road less traveled. Will tells Carlton that he doesn't want to take the easy way out. He came to Bel-Air to go to school, and he wants to finish school in Bel-Air on his own, which I commend him for that.
Yeah.
Carlton tells Will that Phil could help him find an apartment. Will says he needs to figure this out on his own. Will attempts to sabotage potential buyers.
This was great.
We get some fun cameos.
These were awesome.
We get Conrad Bain and Gary Coleman as Mr. Drummond and Arnold from Different Strokes. And then Marla Gibbs, Sherman Hemsley, and Isabel Sanford as Florence Johnston, George and Louise Jefferson from the Jeffersons, which we've done the Jeffersons, and we haven't done Different Strokes, but we did The Facts of Life, which is a spinoff.
Yep.
Which
I loved it. I was like, oh my God, I totally forgot.
Will's attempts at sabotage are a failure, and the Jeffersons buy the house, but they have to be out by the end of the week. Will finally confesses to Phil that he doesn't have an apartment. Carlton still tries to cover for Will, saying it's not an apartment, it's a condo. Will confirms to Phil that there is no new residence, and he lied. Will tells Phil that he lied because he didn't want him to think that he was the same kid that moved to Bel-Air from Philly all those years ago. Phil tells Will that he is nothing like that kid from 6 years ago. He reminds Will that he's in college, he's graduating in a year, he's going to be living on his own, and that he's becoming a man. Phil tells him that he couldn't be prouder of the man he's become. Phil then tells Will that he's going to help him find an apartment. Will agrees. Will and Carlton are finishing packing up the pool house. They are dividing up their CD collection, which was something you used to do, kids out there. You used to have to divide up your CD collection because they get all meshed up with your roommates. The two realize this is their last night together. They've had a wild ride going from kids to adults, rivals to friends, cousins to brothers. They both admit that they'll miss each other, and as one last hurrah, Will turns on It's Not Unusual by Tom Jones.
Not unusual.
For one last Carlton dance. Will even joins in.
It was cute.
That's such a great moment. The next day, the family gathers in the empty living room one last time. Will promises Phil that he'll pick up the phone every Sunday when they call. Phil tells Will that he is his son and he loves him very much. They all hug and leave. Will is the last to leave and turns out the living room lights. And one last joke for the show, we then hear Carlton yell, "Hey, who turned off the lights?" Carlton runs downstairs with his pants half up and runs out the house. Will laughs and says that he is definitely going to miss Carlton. He walks out the empty house, and that is that. End of episode. All right, what'd you think?
I loved it. I think it was like a nice, clean ending.
Mm-hmm.
It just, everyone was happy. It wasn't hokey.
Right.
It was to me like a good wrap up, especially since the show was canceled.
Yeah.
And, sometimes when shows are canceled, you don't even get that series finale. And so I loved that. Obviously, I think they probably knew by this point, by either the start of this season or midway through, that they were going to have some closure.
Right.
But I think it gave a good closure to the entire series. Everyone got sort of not what they wanted in a perfect way, but in a way that made sense for who they had become over the past 6 years.
Yeah, it was a very kind of common trope in the 90s in the series finale that the family would move out of the house. That happened a lot. But this one felt it felt different in the sense that it was more than just them moving. It was everyone was kind of like bettering their lives, and they had come such a long way. And, you know, you had Carlton, who was such a bratty little snot in the pilot, and then now kind of still having that like back and forth with Will, but being like, hey, I got your back. Like, you know, I know you lied. I know I've been making jokes. I'm sorry, but like I have your back. And then, you know, Hillary kind of having her own network talk show, and then Ashley finally like coming into her own with singing, and, you know, very everyone, and then Phil became a judge. Like everyone was kind of coming into their own, except Aunt Vivian. They never really did much with her character.
They did it, yeah. She
it's kind of annoying. I mean, it is what it is. It ended so long ago, but I feel like when they replaced Daphne Maxwell Reed, they kind of just like stopped giving Vivian storylines.
Yeah.
Which is unfortunate because she's a great actress. But yeah, so that is that. That is Fresh Prince. Great series finale. Great series finale.
Still holds up.
Still holds up. Still funny. There were so many moments where you and I were laughing out loud for real, and very sweet at the end. And, you know, it wasn't like overly emotional, but it's somewhat emotional.
Yeah.
Especially if you watch the show and you were attached to the characters.
Especially between Will and Uncle Phil.
Right.
I mean, you know, and
that was so much of the heart of the show.
Yeah. You're mine, you know. So
yeah,
I love that.
Yeah, it's very cute, very sweet, very charming. All right, ready to wrap this one up?
Let's do it.
All right. That wraps up this episode. Thanks for tuning in. If you haven't already, go ahead and follow us on whichever platform you're listening to this podcast on. That way you'll be notified every time we publish a new episode. You can also follow us on Instagram at WeJudgePilotPod. We're also on Facebook. You can leave us a comment. Oh, we're also on Threads, too. Leave us a comment, suggest a show for us to watch, or leave some emojis in the comments. What you got?
All right, Fresh Prince emojis, the house, the hand wave to say goodbye. Suitcases, the UK flag for Jeffrey, the TV for Hillary, the microphone or Statue of Liberty for
New York.
New York, the dinner plate for their last meal, the CDs, the dance and the disco ball for the Carlton dance, the phone, and the light bulb for the lights going out.
Oh, that's a good one.
All right. Well, we are going to head out, but we'll talk to you soon. Thanks for listening.